Good morning, and thanks for joining us at Startup Grind today. Our event today is brought to you by Spark Center, our regional innovation center in Durham region. And as the Eastern Ontario chapter of Startup Grind, Spark Center is thrilled to bring you these monthly events to inspire, motivate, and challenge you. My name is Gary Jarosz, and I'm the chair of the board for Spark Center, and I will be the moderator for today's Startup Grind. You know, these entrepreneurial journeys are always very, very interesting. In my own professional career, I spent a number of years in the ICT sector with a number of Fortune 100 companies, and then with a number of entrepreneurial startups in a variety of different technologies. And I know from my own experience that every entrepreneurial journey sends you down different paths at different times, and you have to react to different stimuli as you try to build your business. So I'm really excited about today's session. But before we begin, I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of our Spark Center's elite partners. So Breskin and Parr LLP, Finance Without Borders, RDP Associates, Leighton, Suresh Law, and Real Estate Refreshed. The interview portion of today's event will begin shortly, but don't forget to stay tuned after the interview for networking. If you haven't tried networking on the Hopin platform before, it's fun and easy and a great way to meet some new faces. Now, if you've had a chance to read the recently released Winter 2022 issue of the Spark Business and Innovation magazine, you'll recognize today's speaker as he was featured in the Navigating Mental Health feature. If you haven't seen the winter issue yet, be sure to visit the sparkmagazine.ca to download a digital copy of it and subscribe to receive future issues. The media kit is also available on the website if you're interested in advertising in the Spark magazine. I'm looking forward to chatting with today's guest. He's a medical doctor with a PhD in neuroscience and an extensive background in clinical and basic science research. He is passionate about combining his expertise in medicine, neuroscience, and consumer electronics and applications to bridge the gap between clinical and technology worlds. Now, I'd like to welcome the CEO and president of OPTT Health, Dr. Mohsen Omrani, to join me on stage. Good morning, Mohsen. How are you today?
Good morning, Gary. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you about today, and I'm going to start off by asking you if you could give us just a little sense for a breakdown of your career before OPTT Health.
So you were just saying, my path has been, I wouldn't really be expecting myself to be here where I am 10 years ago. So I did my medical school in Iran, and from the beginning, I was interested in neuroscience and the brain, the diseases of the brain, and how understanding the brain could help us with, treating the diseases. So after my medical school, I came to Canada to Queen's University. I did my master's and PhD in neuroscience at Queen's. And then I did my postdoc in computational neuropsychiatry at Rutgers University. And I joined the company full time. We found the company officially in 2018, but I joined full time in 2019, and that's how I got here.
Great. So now you co-founded OPTT Health alongside Dr. Nazanin Alavi. Can you tell us about the pain point that led you to the business idea?
Yeah, so then I should first give the credit to Nazanin. This was her idea. So she has been doing research on delivering online psychotherapy since 2007. And what really started it was that, at the time, we had a lot of friends that, emigrated from Iran to go to other countries to do graduate studies. Now, you can imagine how moving to a new country away from the family, studying stressful thing like graduate school, and how much could put you in the harm's way of mental health problems like anxiety problems and depression. But the challenge is that a lot of them didn't have any resources. First of all, I mean, they didn't have the money to go and have weekly sessions with a clinician. And even if they could afford it, I mean, forget about the stigma. It's like most of us, when we immigrated, our language expertise was at the level that we could understand what our supervisor says. And so it was not in a level that we could go in and talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist and talk about your feelings and problems, right? So it was a really bad situation, that you were prone to problem and you didn't have any resources. So Nazanin told to herself, like, well, everybody uses emails, like, and there's no need. And if you're using email, what does it matter if you're sitting in Canada or Australia or Iran? So she started doing research on how using online psychotherapy could be helpful. So she started delivering, preparing this content of cognitive behavioral therapy, in PowerPoints and PDFs. She would email it to her patients. Patients went through this. At the end of it, there was a workbook. They would do the workbook. They would email it back to her. She would provide feedback. So there were a few emails back and forth, but it worked great. Back in 2015, I was busy with some other stuff, and I told her, like, what you do is amazing, but email is not the right medium. Is not secure, sustainable, or scalable beyond a clinical trial. So I suggested to make her a platform so she can securely interact with the patients through the platform. So it was purely, research and clinical need-based product at that point. We worked on it on the background. We won the Mental Health Innovation Zone Award from the American Psychiatric Association in 2018. And at that time, we felt that, okay, this is mature enough that we can make it available to other clinicians. And I joined, in 2019 with the idea to bring my background in precision measurement and data science and combine it with my wife's, clinical background to make the next generation of mental health products that are based on objective measurement and data-driven decision making. So that was where we came from, but I would be happy to tell you more about why we think this approach works.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up scalability, because I think it's fairly well known today that there's an ongoing medical crisis, health crisis in North America, and we always hear about the shortage of healthcare workers and medical professionals. How is OPTT making a difference in this area?
Yeah, so um, what we are trying to do, we are actually trying to uh, make mental health, the process, more streamlined and standardized, so the bulk of the care could be delivered by lower cost personnel. And we have our AI sitting at different touch points to make sure that each patient is receiving exactly the right level of care they need. So we have a range of disease-specific digital care plans. So they are, pre-designed content that the clinician can assign to the patients. Patients go through them on their own time, and they can take their time to really understand it. At the end of each session, there is a homework. They do the homework, and the clinician would only provide personalized feedback on the homework, and let's keep repeating the same general concepts across multiple patients. This way, they can handle 3 to 4 patients in 1 hour rather than just one patient. So essentially, you can increase the capacity of the care delivery by 3 to 4 times. Because at the end of the day, essentially, there is no way we can. I mean, even if there was no problem with, the accessibility, no problem with affordability, we do not have enough clinicians to deliver mental health in the traditional one-on-one format. Like, there needs to be, like, the capacity, the need is like 3 to 4 times bigger than the demand is 3 to 4 times bigger than the supply. So we need innovative solutions to approach this. And that doesn't mean that everybody's need is the same, right? I mean, some people need a psychiatrist care, some people need some self-guided material, some people need some low-level engagement with the clinician. uh, but then the question is like, how can we know who needs what resources? And that is what we are trying to do with our AI capabilities. So our AI is focused on trying to understand, provide an accurate and actionable insight about the patient's mental status, and offer an objective and data-driven approach to delivering the care, that fits each individual patient's needs, and finally using our resources, our clinically validated content, facilitate the care delivery.
Yeah, that's huge benefits, not only to the clinician, but also to the patient. So now take us through a little bit of kind of a sense for from the original idea to what it is today. How much has changed from that original idea? Because I'm sure you saw different needs as you evolved the product. So give us a sense from what the original idea was to what it is today. What changed? What were the big changes?
Well, the the original idea definitely didn't change, but the way we are implementing it is definitely changed, right? Um, so, like the content, we soon realize that the content is definitely something that everybody is asking for and missing. And the important point about the content is that it is important to remember that mental health is part of health and is the same thing like any other field of medicine. You do not just go on and just accept any random person's advices, right? The same way that in any other in any other kind of clinical setup, the solutions need to be clinically validated, meaning that gone through a very rigorous clinical trial, right? In different tested in the patient's population for the safety, for the efficacy. The same should be true in mental health. So that's why we have one of our efforts is focusing on delivering and preparing the in a range of uh, clinically validated content that range at this point. The content that we have is ranging from more general contents like anxiety and depression to more specific ones like OCD, PTSD, addiction, and more recently postpartum depression, and managing chronic diseases like chronic pain, cancer, and diabetes. And what is important is that we have the commitment that any care plan that goes on the platform is connected to a clinical trial, is connected to a peer-reviewed article. So whatever claim that we make, they can anybody can go and check the validity. But really, what has changed was our approach to the AI part of it. Like we embarked with the idea to use machine learning and AI and to evaluate patients' mental status. Uh, well, when it started, it was just an idea, right? For me, at the beginning, I was more thinking on the line of using wearables like Fitbit, and tracking, the activity pattern and the sleep pattern, which I actually do right now. But um, we have an amazing head of data science that he persuaded me that the most important thing to look into is the natural language processing, because everything if you ask a clinician, if a patient goes to a clinician's office, they definitely look into that patient's appearance, how they walk, how they talk, do they make eye contact when they talk, do what is how their pitch and tone of voice, is it low, is it like energetic? And so those are very important variables. But at the end of the day, the most important part in psychiatry is what the patient says and the content of their thoughts, right? That is the most important variable that the clinicians look into, and that is what we decided, to put on our effort on, right? Which was admittedly the most complicated one. It's like if it was easy, they would like everybody would do it. So I would say on how the main idea didn't change. The goal was to use technology to evaluate and make mental health objective, but really, the techniques and the strategy changed.
Right. That's great. So now you talked a lot about the technologies you were evaluating in there. OPTT is one of the fastest growing digital mental health care companies in North America right now. What do you think has been the biggest factor that has contributed to that success?
Uh, um, Unfortunately, the pandemic. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not happy that the pandemic happened, but the pandemic was a big catalyzer for our growth, and not us only. It's like the digital medicine and digital health has over the course of 1 or 2 years, like advanced and moved like for 10, 15 years. And it's not the technology that advanced, it's that acceptability. Like I remember, like before the pandemic, we went to a lot of companies, talked about our approach, and everyone was like, yeah, that sounds good, that's very interesting, come back in 6 months, right? And then the pandemic hit. Now the methods that people were using before is not was not working. Now having digital health solution was important, and that was which really opened the door. But yeah, I mean, so in a sense, you could say it's a change in mentality, right? And so that was the biggest change that
Yeah.
propelled our progress.
There's no question that the pandemic has been a catalyst for growth for a number of different businesses. And there's nothing wrong with people admitting that was the case. Look at the technology we're using today. Here's you and I. We have reach across North America to all kinds of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people throughout North America. We're not even leaving the comfort of our own living room. So it's fantastic how a lot of these technologies have come forward. So now you talked about the fact that you immigrated from Iran. So tell us, did you always have an entrepreneurial streak, or did that come to you later in life?
Well, um, well, I always had a knack for organizing new things and making new stuff. But I've never thought about it, to do it in a commercial way, right? I organized, like I was the organizer of the Iranian neuroscientist community outside Iran, right? So I was the president and the founder for many years. So I'd like to do a lot of these innovative things, but I've never thought about like monetizing them. Like before starting this company, I haven't sold a single like pen to anybody, right? But then it came to the situation that it was the necessity. It's like, okay, I need to do this. This needs to become a business if we want this to actually happen. But as you can guess, it was not easy. So I like the innovative parts of the stuff, but making it into a business was the hard lessons that I learned over the past few years.
So let's expand on those those hard parts that you just talked about. In terms of OTTP or OPTT, what were the biggest roadblocks to success that you came across?
Um, there are a few, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everything comes to the money, right? Uh, it's like at the beginning, I was under in the delusion that if you make a good product, people come in. That cannot be further than the truth, right? It doesn't matter how cool your product is, you should be able to sell it. And selling is not something that I knew how to do, right? So I had to learn a lot of it. So and then you start this business. I mean, now you have a business. Now you have to be able to provide funds and finances to uh, you know give pay the money for the legals and accounting and salaries and everything like that. So now you should learn how to raise money, right? And again, I mean, I, I knew how to do it in the academic sense. I definitely didn't know how to do it in the business sense. And I mean, the academic sense actually is a little disadvantageous, for the commercial sense, because as an academic person, I mean, none of my, statements are, kind of absolute. Everything that I say that has a but, an if, or and unfortunately, in the business world, when you use those buts and ifs, they take it as you don't know your case. So being a moron pays much more in the business world. Being having that conviction of saying something that is flat, false or lie, but because it says by conviction, they accept it. So that was a big challenge to learn, how to navigate this. And there are a lot of other things. Network, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not, the decision to buy what is not just driven by the value, and it is driven by who knows who, right? And so building that network, was a challenge too. But I don't know if I can say it's one thing or two things or something like that, but uh, a combination of these ones.
Yeah. And networking in business, I've always been a huge proponent of it, something I still do today. And anybody I ever talk to, I say networking is key. Do you have any specific tips on networking that you would share with the audience that helped you out as you navigated through the building of OPTT?
Well, I'm thinking I'm the last person to give advice on networking, but it helps that so we are actually three co-founders. It's me and my wife, and then my younger brother, Ali. Um, he's a social butterfly, and he is amazing in networking. You can talk to everybody. Usually if you go to an event, you see that I'm sitting at a corner, maybe talking to two people. He just talks to everybody in the room, right? So, and it's important that people know you, people understand you. I mean, so um, it it's important that people see, right? It's unfortunate that, I mean, it's good that these days you can listen or talk on any, without leaving your room, as you said. But at the end of the day, that physical presence is important. And frankly, the success of a lot of, you would see a lot of startups working, coming out of the Silicon Valley, right? It's not like that those ideas are always the better ideas. It's just that they are in the network of people who have the money, the network of people. So it's like, if you could be in those hubs, right? If you can, go, I mean, it's not cheap. That it is. It has. It's a lot of benefits to be, for instance, sitting in Canada and do innovative stuff. But it's that much harder because you wouldn't get to see, people who have the money, people who can, lend you their network or stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, as you went through your journey, were there any key partnerships that come to mind that really made a difference in terms of your forward trajectory?
Oh, definitely. So uh, in 2020, I mean, we owe a lot of our success to some amazing people at EQ Care. So EQ Care was a very forward-thinking telemedicine network out of Quebec, and they have been our supporter and champion all along. So we had our initial contract with them. They were acquired by TELUS Health, and so we got into the business with TELUS Health, and they kept championing us there. So a lot of our success on the commercial side goes to you know finding a partner that is willing to go the extra mile for you. But on the other hand, I mean, it's this kind of accelerators that like right here. I should shout out to Janice Maddy from Queen's Innovation and Partnership. She has been an amazing. She has paired us with an amazing advisor, and providing support and providing some feedback. We have been into a few really good, uh, accelerator incubators. We started from uh, biomedical zone. It's a sub zone of DMZ. Then we were at DMZ. And last year, we actually had the opportunity to get into uh, uh, Morgan Stanley Multicultural Innovation Lab. That was an amazing experience, and they helped us so much. We are doing Endless Frontiers Lab. So, and from each of these incubators, we have collected one or two advisors, and I would say definitely these the incubators can help you grow a lot.
Yes, I'm guessing you're going to tell me you put a lot of value in these partnerships.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, again, I should say, like, not all partnerships, not all things are the same, right? There are some that have more value than the others. Like, as I said, our partner, our accelerator with Morgan Stanley, it was 6 months. It was like, I don't know, 15 hours a week. Kind of work. We had to travel to New York once a month, but the payoff was really good. I think before then we were, a startup, and there we can, they instilled in us, the mindset of how to be a bigger organization. Moving from a 3-4 person organization to a 15, 20, or 50-person organization. So that was really valuable for us.
Yeah. Now, you've talked a lot about your journey from the start to where you are today. If you think back and you boil it all down, what was your most favorite and least favorite part of your journey so far?
Still to date, the most favorite part is the geeking part. So I'm the AI part of what we do is only like has two. It's me and my director of data science. So we still do a lot of geeking, a lot of research. So uh, a lot of my background in basic science are in play right now. It's like a lot of the statistics and different methods that I learned there we are using right now. So my most favorite part are just designing these AI capabilities, and they actually sometimes some of the capabilities go even beyond our wildest imagination. Like, we would expect something and we would get something much better than that. So that is my most favorite part of the business, and the least favorite part is dealing with the finances. It's like I mean, the most stressful part is dealing with the finances. It's like how bring money in time, to keep the lights on, and pay the salaries and pay the bills. So uh, but it's a necessity. You have to do it. It's part of what you need to do in this process.
Yep, the finance side always tends to be the toughest side of scaling a small business in an entrepreneurial startup, especially. I felt the pain that you felt as well. Now, thinking about it, is there anything you would do differently given where you are today?
Um, I think there are certain mistakes that it doesn't matter if somebody tells you you should make it, so not to do it the next time. It's like, and there are certain, again, and you don't need to make all the mistakes in the world. I mean, you have to talk to people to learn how not to make those mistakes. Like, uh, you know, reading the books in this, educating yourself. Uh, there is this book that I love. It's called Venture Deals. That has been the most amazing resource for learning, about how the venture money works. Interestingly, I read this book kind of twice. Once, like probably in 2020 or something like that, and 2021, and once last year. And reading the same thing, again after a year of experience, made a lot of more sense for me. So I, I don't think that there is a solution I can give to anybody and say, okay, if you are starting from zero today without any experience in the entrepreneurship, these are the things that you should avoid. These are the things. I mean, there are certain things that uh, you have to gain the experience. But good advisors can help you not make certain mistakes. A lot of uh, financial decisions, a lot of legal, and how you structure your organization. The kind of shares that go you give this to do that. Uh, but as much as possible, try not to reinvent the wheel. If you can use outsource something, uh, you know, do it. What At the end of the day, what matters is your specific added value. That is, otherwise, I mean, if there are stuff that everybody else did, well, there's nothing specific to you. You should focus on the part that you do the best, and be focused on it. Again, I'm saying all this, it doesn't mean that we all do it all the time. I mean, we get distracted quite easy as well, but it's important to remember some of those stuff.
Yeah. Shout out to one of our guests, John Cost, who says fascinating topic on so many levels. And it truly is. Um, and, recent events, even here in Toronto, are becoming a lightning rod for focus on mental health crisis. But there is, a stigma about it. And one of the questions we got from our audience is, um, how would you say we can all work to continue to reduce stigma around mental health?
It's just, I mean, I don't have the answer for it. Like, yesterday was the Bell Let's Talk. That's an amazing, initiative. But at the end of the day, what is important to remember is that mental health is a health issue like anything else. The same way that, I mean, there's no shame in talking about your broken arm or uh, you know diabetes. Uh, it shouldn't be a shame to talk about your mental health. And I think, again, what happened through pandemic was unfortunate, but that had this effect, catalyzing effect, that people started talking and talking about it. Now it's much less stigma today than yesterday. But um, I think it's just the normalizing part, and I guess everything starts from how we deal with our younger ones, right? I mean, a lot of things are more easier and understood by my kids than for me. It's so if I will have to say, the best way is to just make sure that our kids know that the mental health is part of health, and they deal with it the same way, and they would help us to realize that as well.
Yeah. Now, Mohsen, you talked about a lot of things. You're a neuroscientist. You talked about AI, etc. You don't just get there from the start. So something must have influenced you in your early years to shape you to become what you are today. So, is there anything that comes to mind?
Um, I don't know if I can really, you know, crystallize it to one thing. I think it was an integral of my family, my friends, the school that I went, right? Like, I went to a school that really pushed on innovation, right? And so when I learned about, neurons in my third grade of high school, I was like, oh my, I was fascinated by it. And then there was a group of graduates from my school that were in the medical school that had this group that they did studies on neuroscience that I joined. So I became fascinated by the brain, and then um, I wanted to understand the brain. So that became my life journey. How to understand the brain and solve the brain. But I became disillusioned through my postdoc that the brain is not going to get solved anytime soon, not in my lifetime. So I decided that, being a little uh, thinking about myself, I was like, okay, I want to do something that I can see the results in my lifetime. And so I decided to work on a different question that actually I could see results, and that was when I decided to switch to what my wife was working on, that was actually delivering results to patients. So uh, again, I think it's been a combination of many things. I really couldn't say there's this specific one thing.
So that's a great sense for what drove you into the area of science that you were in. What of your life experiences can you attribute to helping you be a successful entrepreneur?
Well, successful is a stretch. I don't know I'm successful yet or not. Um, you know, uh, uh, being, just remember that the mantra of be the change you want to see in the world, right? I mean, a lot of the times people think that, okay, somebody else would do it, and that is the thinking among all people. If everybody thinks that somebody else will do it, nothing would go forward. And now, is that from organizing a small group, to organizing a bigger group, or taking charge of what change that you want to see. Do not wait for somebody else to do it. I think that was what actually drove me in this space, that I thought that uh, you know there is something fundamentally wrong about the way that we do mental health practices today, and doing more of the same thing is not going to be the answer, and there should be a new approach. And you need to be if you want a new approach, well, you should start it. It's not something that you can expect anybody else do it. So that's why I started as a this my journey to entrepreneurship.
So then, given what you've gone through, Motion, what advice would you have for anybody who had an idea but were unsure where to begin from an entrepreneurial perspective?
Oh, first check how old you are. um, It's a lot of work, and I'll be frank. For instance, my younger brother, he's like 7 years younger than me. He easily works, 12 to 15 hours a day, and he doesn't have kids, right? So it is doable for them, for him. But um, if you have kids, if you have a family, if you have to pay, the well, pay for the bread, that becomes more challenging. Like, to be frank, I wouldn't be able to do this if it was not for my wife, right? So because I didn't have salary for 3 years, and uh, so my wife is a psychiatrist. That's not the biggest deal. But at the end of the day, your finance is the hardest part of this. Now the finance could be how you pay yourself, how you pay for a company. Um, so it's you know the the idea is important, but the idea is not everything. You should see, uh, are you ready to sacrifice many different things, to go through this stress, and do you have the support around you to do that, and do you have resources around you to do that? So it's not something that I would say everybody should do. I think the same way I can do it, everybody can, but it's not, uh, my suggestion that everybody do this.
Yeah, and I think the key word that you mentioned is sacrifice. There are sacrifices that you'll have to make, and I guess for depending on your situation and who you are and the business that you're in, those sacrifices will be a little bit different. There's no question about it. So maybe just tell us what's next for you in OPTT Health.
Um, so right now we are focusing our attention in expanding our business in the U.S. market. In many ways, U.S. market is much more ready for our solution. Um, Unfortunately, the Canadian system is not the most accepting, and most innovative solution. I'm sure you know about it, but I don't know any other line of business in the world that still uses fax machines, right? So, uh, I mean, there might be a few more, but it shows you that how far we need to go, and it takes a lot of courage, to have that innovation. So that's why we have mostly focused our in the US market. But in the innovative side, what we hope to be right now, what we have is, right, we use natural language processing for uh, the evaluating patients' mental status. But we do not believe that, for instance, for diabetes, it is simple what you want to evaluate. You want to evaluate the blood glucose. But for mental health, there is no single variable, right? So we chose what we think is the most important variable, but that at the same time we know that there are many other variables that, just as I said, uh, in the pitch and tone of voice, or the posture or anything else. So our goal is to be able to combine those technologies. Like right now we have a partnership with an organization called Canary Speech. They use pitch and tone of voice to evaluate patients' mental status. So we are now using our joint product. So right now we don't even ask patients to write about their story, to evaluate their mental status. A link goes to them, and we ask them to just tell us their story over the last 2 weeks. How have they been feeling? We use their technology to evaluate the vocal impression. We use our technology to evaluate the content. But as I said, there are many other technologies that we have in mind that we would like to incorporate to have a 360 view of patients' mental status. And at the next is like to make this, we want to be the Intel chip in everybody else's clinic, and uh, be able to have this as a standalone solutions, maybe go through the FDA approval process, but those are still down the road.
So you talked a lot about a lot of technology and obviously a lot of things that you've got on the radar moving forward. How do you keep current on new trends in technology?
um, well, um, I I like Twitter. you know, I have a big community on Twitter to keep up with the science, and we have the in our Slack group that we share every in the company, that we share all interesting ideas there, and articles, or geeking around with different people. I don't know if there is one source or like that, but yeah, but again, through the network and through the usual geeking around.
Yeah. Now, is there any critical apps or tools that you're looking for as you continue to develop your solution?
Um, so what? Okay, maybe ask what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, so like as you're continuing to develop the solution you currently offer out in the marketplace, and you talked about, AI and machine readability, et cetera, are there any evolving technologies or tools that you think would be able to significantly enhance the further development or continued development of your solution?
I think the most exciting developments in the last few years has been on the language models. The way that we can do language processing today is like night and day, compared to 10 years ago. And I know when I say that, the first thing that everybody thinks about is chat gpt. So I mean, it's an impressive piece of technology, but it's important to remember what it does. It's I don't even think that the OpenAI people are misrepresenting it. People try to read too much into it. ChatGPT is a generative model to complete your sentences. That's it. Doesn't have any idea what it says. What it says, it makes sense, but I mean, in some level, but it might be complete nonsense. It knows how to say something nicely, and it knows it has a big memory, and it knows how to associate different things, but it has zero judgment about what it says. Is it correct or not? Because the correctness is depending on the source of information. Even if the in different sources of information might be right. So, for instance, I have some examples in my on my LinkedIn. I asked it to write about the benefit of cocaine for severely depressed patients, and it starts with, there is a lot of controversy about using cocaine for depression. There are a lot of new studies that are showing the benefits of cocaine for depression, which is completely made up, because this is some way that people actually use in their opening of their art writings. And it knows that mental health, like depression, is caused by an imbalance of neurotransmitters. It also knows that cocaine increases the dopamine in the brain. So it makes the judgment, it makes the connection, and says, because cocaine increases the dopamine in the brain, and depression been shown to have imbalance of it, so cocaine is a perfect medicine for depressed patients. Which is cannot be more further than the truth. So it's important to remember, as much as these new technologies are exciting, you should know exactly what they're trained to do for, and just ask them that. Or not just ask them that. You should know what they lack, and if you want to really make an improvement, try to make the part that they're lacking, and then you are going to be the next big mind.
Funny that you brought it up, because I was going to ask you about ChatGPT. A huge aggregator of existing data and information, but not forward looking in terms of where things can go. So you're doing a lot of research forward looking. One could say that ChatGPT is only for what's existing today. Anyway, with that, we won't get into too much on ChatGPT. Mohsen, any final thoughts you want to leave our entrepreneurial community with?
You know, if you are in this, just keep pushing forward. Try to find a good supportive network. Try to surround yourself with advisors that tell you the truth as is. Also, are not afraid of cheering you on this. This is a lonely path, right? And some days, you are you know in the abyss, and you need something to help, push you through. One of my friends, actually, he has an amazing startup which is in Kingston as well, and he was saying the startup world, the distance between that summit of happiness and that abyss might be like from morning till evening. Okay, that you get the news in the morning, you're so happy, then you get another one in the afternoon, you become devastated. So it's important to remember that this is part of the journey. So do not get disappointed with failures, and do not get overexcited about every single achievement. Just push through, surround yourself with amazing network of people, and move on.
Mohsen, I want to thank you for joining us today and for all your very insightful comments and advice for our community. So thanks very much for joining us, and please say goodbye to all of our audience out there.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Mohsen. So this startup grind was proudly presented by Spark Center, and we want to say thank you again to Spark Center's elite partners, Bruskin and Parr LLP, Finance Without Borders, RDP Associates, Leighton, Suresh Law, and Real Estate Refreshed. The next startup grind is taking place on Thursday, February 23rd. So please be sure to mark your calendar and keep an eye on Spark Center's social pages for more details and to register for it. Now it's time for networking. So if you wish to join us, you can navigate to this section by clicking on the people icon on the left side of your screen. You'll be paired up with one person at a time for 3 minutes, and you can use this time to get to know each other, and you'll have an option to extend as well if desired. Once the time is up, press ready, and Hopin will automatically move you to the next person. Click the connect button if you'd like to exchange contact information with anyone. So thanks, and we'll see you in the networking section. Have a great day, everybody.